Good day, y'all. Welcome back to another episode or edition of Live Simply, Live Well with me, your girl, Marie. Yes, the 56-year-old who is postmenopausal. First and foremost, thank you for your incredible comments. Some of y'all have me cracking up with some of your comments, but they're all lighthearted and very well received. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. This little channel here be doing some things. It'd be doing some things in such a short period of time. So I'm very, very grateful that the content that I've been posting, you know, you guys have resonated with it. Now, speaking of comments, I'd seen a few people ask me questions about menopause, you know, my mindset around it. Somebody asked, what is it? How, you know, what was my experience and all of that kind of good stuff. So I thought in today's video, I would share on that. Most of my subscribers, I would say, are between 35 and 44, so I think it's a fair question to ask, what is menopause? I'm really glad that there are more conversations around it, because when I went through it, you know, I didn't even know half of the stuff. Honestly, I didn't know half the symptoms until after the fact. So if you're wondering what menopause is, without being too medically, I'm not a doctor. Let me just say that. I'm not a medical or not a menopause expert. I'm just sharing my experience through it and, you know, just things that I've learned from my, you know, research over the years. But it is basically a time where your estrogen levels start dropping. You are coming to the end of your childbearing years. The eggs are going to dry up and there'll be no more. Now, this is just a natural part of life. It's the natural part of being a woman. You cannot escape it. You can run, but you can't hide. It's just going to happen. For some women, they just have more severe symptoms than others, but I feel like you don't have to suffer through it. There are things that you can do. So that's, you know, in a nutshell, how I would describe it. As far as symptoms that you might experience in perimenopause, because there's perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So when you get into perimenopause, you're probably going to see things like the weight gain around the middle, check. The brain fog, you might walk into a room and then just straight up forget why you walked into the room. You could have hot flashes, you could have night sweats, you could lose some hair, yes, check. And your moodiness can go up. You could be, you know, everything could be peaches and rainbows 1 minute, and the next minute it could be row. It's just your hormones, honey. It's just your hormones. Just blame everything on the hormones. That's what I do. But those are some of the main symptoms. Now, as for me, I went into perimenopause in about 2017. I think I was actually in it from 2016. By 2017, I was officially diagnosed with it. I tried to get my hormones tested about 4 years prior, but my doctor had asked me if I'd gone 12 months without a period. I said no. She's like, well, then you don't need to get your hormones tested. Just push and get your hormones tested. Hopefully they're more open to that now that there's more conversation around menopause. But I was fully diagnosed when I was about 46 or so. And you know, there was no follow-up anything. There was no, hey, you should make an appointment with your doctor so she can tell you, you know, what lifestyle changes you should make, maybe what supplements you should add into your diet, even what symptoms you might experience. Just give me something. Give me something to work with here. But there was nothing. So I did experience the hair loss. I did experience the, when I say hair loss, like, I know stress was a contributor to it. But my hair did thin out on the top. That's one reason I keep my hair short. Just waiting for it to grow back in. I'd like to grow it out, but I'd rather have a healthy head of short hair than, you know, little patchy, baldy kind of thin spots. So I also, you know, had to deal with the stress a little bit, as I said. Things that I did not experience were hot flashes, night sweats, and when I say night sweats, like on a regular basis. Last year, 2 nights in a row, I did wake up drenched, but that was it. Never happened again. So I almost don't count that because I think maybe I was fighting off like a flu or a fever or some kind of thing like that. A little bit of brain fog, but again, I didn't know brain fog was a thing at the time that I was experiencing the brain fog. So for me, those were kind of the main symptoms that I experienced. For a lot of women, it's very severe. You could be standing still, just breathing, and a hot flash will come on. You know, but I can't relate, unfortunately. Please don't come for me in the comments because I had minimal symptoms. I feel like if you have friends that have like had barely any or just sailed through it, question them. Ask them, what did you do? What are you doing that I'm not doing? What are you doing that I could be doing to help minimize those symptoms? So yeah, my menopause, perimenopause lasted for about 6 years or so. I've been postmenopausal for 3 years. Now, after you go 12 months without a period, which is what they call menopause. I don't even know why they call it that. It should just be perimenopause, then you go the 12 months, and then it's postmenopause. This in-between thing here does not make sense, in my humble opinion. But just know also when you're in perimenopause, your periods can be all over the place. You could have one, then you could miss two. You could have two, then you could miss one. Which, you know, is not the most fun. It can affect your life. You know how when we were younger, we would plan our vacations around our period so that we weren't on it? Well, now it's all up in the air all over the place. So that is one of the downsides of perimenopause. But mine was only 6 years or so, and then I went the 12 months without a period. But one thing happened that I was not expecting, and thank God for the nurse practitioner who did my poke and prod, let's just call it that, my poke and prod at the time. She had said to me, because at that point I was at 9 months without a period, she told me after 12 months, if you have a period, if you have a bleed, please come and see us right away because we want to rule out any cancer down in the, you know, endometrium area there. I never even knew that was a thing, which makes me wonder if my own doctor would have told me that. So just know that just because you go 12 months without a period doesn't mean that you're good for the rest of your life. You could potentially have another period after. Now, I had to have what they call an endometrium biopsy after I'd had an ultrasound. And child, girl, I do not wish that on anyone. So just put the good vibes out there that, you know, once you go 12 months, like that is it. Because that procedure, no, girl, you do not want to have that done. Now, thankfully, all was well down there. I had to go on progesterone for 1 month to have one last flush out because I think my endometrium lining was a little thicker than it should have been at that stage of life. So just know that, you know, it's not always smooth sailing after 12 months of no periods. So then I went into postmenopause, and you're gonna have that for the rest of your life. That's just how it is. Your symptoms could, you know, quell, they could calm down a little bit. But I think the biggest reason for me why I didn't have, you know, severe symptoms was my lifestyle. I've always been a pretty healthy person. I'm not gonna say that I eat perfectly or ate perfectly all the time, but I've always been pretty much a healthy person, into fitness most of the time. I did have my times where I wasn't motivated to work out. That would go on for weeks, in fact, sometimes, just where I was mentally, where I just wasn't motivated. But I think that because when I turned 40, that's when I started my clean beauty journey. I guess I would put it that way. I don't know what was the trigger for that, but I just felt, well, I'm getting older, so let's start taking even better care of ourselves than we can. I'm glad that I do that because one thing I learned, you know, last year from Dr. Mindy Peltz, who is somebody you should definitely look into. She had said that if you were on birth control, you know, in the years leading up to perimenopause, if you were on antibiotics, And I would even say if you didn't maybe have the cleanest of lifestyles, all those toxins that build up in your system over that time get released into your brain and into your bloodstream. And that also factors into the severity of your menopause symptoms. So just keep that in mind. If you are not there, if you're in your 20s and 30s, just really try to be mindful of the amount of toxins that you're taking in. You're going to hear me say it like a broken record. I'll talk about it until I'm blue in the face because it is such a huge contributor to your physical, and I would even say emotional and mental well-being. The toxins in the food that you eat, the water that you drink, the makeup you're putting on your skin care, your hair care that's going into your scalp. If you were coloring your hair, dyeing your hair with all those chemical processes, relaxing your hair, yes, all of those things will affect you down the road. So if you can try to find a way to minimize those, even things in your internal environment, your home environment, from the things that you're cooking with, microwaves, paint, the fabric that your sofa is made of, your clothing, synthetic fibers. I mean, we know that polyester is pretty much a plastic. It's just full of chemicals. So, you know, if you can find a way to start to minimize those things, yes, it takes time. And we have our creature comforts, we have our habits, we have our favorite things, and sometimes those things are hard to give up, but you can't put a price on your health, is what I always say. So if you're able to minimize the amount of toxins that you are, you know, surrounding yourself with, that is going to be a huge, huge help. And I think that is one of the things that helped me because I don't eat a lot of processed food. The water that I drink, I don't drink tap water. There's just a lot of things that I don't do, and I think that has really played a huge part, not only in my aging process, but also in my menopause experience. So please just keep that in mind. Try to just lower your toxin load. It's one of the best things that you could do for yourself when it comes to your menopause experience. What else can I tell you? Exercise is also important. You want to make sure that you are focusing on strength training versus cardio. Cardio is great for the heart, but it doesn't strengthen your muscles. It doesn't help with your bones really. So I would focus on cardio or strength training. A lot of walking is good. That is good for your bones, but you want to keep that muscle tone as much as possible because you will lose muscle tone once you hit your 30s. Every year there's going to be a percentage of muscle mass that you're going to lose. So you want to try and go a little heavier. Just go in the gym 3 days a week and do some weight training. Build up, you know, but don't fatigue yourself so much, or don't go so heavy that, you know, it drives up your cortisol levels. But you definitely want to be strong. I just came back from 5 weeks of traveling overseas with a carry-on, and yeah, we were putting that thing in the overhead bin. I think my bag was 25 pounds, probably slightly over the limit, but overhead bin, down, upstairs. You want to be strong. You want to be able to bend down and pick that stuff up. So strength training is crucial. Start slow and build up your strength. And then of course, nutrition. We want to minimize the processed foods, the bad seed oils, the sugars, the junk food. Let's just put it that way. We want to be adding in like fresh fruits and vegetables, organic as much as possible. If you can't do organic, at least just try to make sure that you do a good rinse with like water and apple cider vinegar or water and baking soda. Let it soak just to get off some of the chemicals, because those too, the chemicals on the fresh vegetables and fruits that you're eating are also contributing to your menopause symptoms. Outside of that, I think that's it, except that I wish that, you know, when I was in my 30s, that doctors would just, you know, I wish there was information that you could be given. You go for your annual physical, you know, when your doctor knows that you're, you know, pushing up to 40, that I wish there was some kind of like information, a pamphlet, something. Hey, you're going to be hitting perimenopause soon. Here is some information for you to read. Here are some symptoms that you know, like if you start experiencing these things, you know, you're probably in, you know, or heading into perimenopause. Because I didn't know half of the things. I didn't know half the symptoms, except for like hot flashes. If you would have said, what do you know about menopause? I would have said, hot flashes would have been the first thing that came out of my mouth, and I didn't even experience that. So, like I said, I didn't know half of these things were symptoms until like I was post-menopausal, which, you know, oh, let me mention one more thing, one more symptom that I experienced that I'm sure a lot of you out there, ladies, probably have experienced. And if you haven't, this is another one that's not pretty. And that is the dryness down there. Yes. That was probably the first symptom. But again, I didn't know it was a symptom. That was the first change. Now I was like in a celibacy phase. So, you know, when you're not with somebody for a while or not intimate for a while, you know, it can be a little tender down there. But goodness gracious. Not to be graphic, but it literally felt like razor blades down there. I'm like, what is happening? Only to find out after the fact that it's because your estrogen levels are dropping. So the lining of your vajayjay inside is thinning. And that's why it's not as moisturized. It's not as, you know, it's not as juicy as it used to be in your younger years. So just beware of that. That can happen. Now, I feel like if you have a partner and you are, you know, being intimate regularly, you might not experience that as much, but, oh, no, honey, no. That and the endometrium biopsy thing, So just beware. You could experience the dryness down there, which is not comfortable. Not comfortable at all. It literally makes you want to put a padlock on there and never have sex again for the rest of your life. Yes, I just said that. I think that's really about it. So let me know in the comments. Have you experienced any of these things? Are you open to making some lifestyle changes? Because that's really what it's about. It's some lifestyle changes. Lowering your toxin load, as I said, is the biggest thing that could, you know, help with your experience, could help mitigate some of your symptoms. I wish I knew all this stuff beforehand, but I did not. So I'm sharing my experience with you in hopes that you'll take some of these tips on board and, you know, have a better time with it. Now, of course, I always say, do your own due diligence. Oh, sorry, one more thing. No, it's not the brain fog. One more thing I just remembered. Somebody had asked me about HRT, hormone replacement therapy. I can't speak to it a lot because honestly, for me, it wasn't something that I was interested in taking at all. No shame or judgment. If you feel that that is something that you want to do, please do your due diligence on that. Please research it. You know, this could be a potential option for you if you really have severe symptoms. But, you know, these synthetic hormones, birth control synthetic hormones, like I'm just trying not to put any synthetic anything in here. Not trying to wear anything synthetic and not trying to put anything synthetic into my system. But again, if you feel like this is an option for you, then by all means. There's also bioidentical hormones, but I think the thing with the HRT is there was a lot of scare or fear around it causing cancer. And listen, let me tell you, I will always try to find a natural solution to anything and everything when it comes to my health before I pop a pill, before I fill a prescription, before I do any kind of, you know, non-natural thing. Let's just say, you know, that's just me. That is just how I live my life. And look, I feel like I've been doing okay. I feel pretty healthy. You know, I just do the things that I need to do. And yes, sometimes it's tough choices that you need to make. But again, you can't put a price on your health. So I hope nothing else comes into my mind after that. But in any event, yes, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Have you experienced really severe symptoms? What have you been doing? Are you, open to making the lifestyle changes that could really help? This inquiring mind wants to know. So thank you for watching. I hope you found value in this. And as usual, thanks for watching.